Hey guys, it's Adrian. Today I'm doing the super freaking late 14-year anniversary video where I promised I would answer all of your questions. Tedroopy says, if you're a guy, how much attraction to cock have you gotten because of Newgrounds? If you're a girl, how much have you considered lesbianism? Because of Newgrounds would be, you know, I actually never really have questioned my sexuality because of Newgrounds. I had my first boyfriend here. So it's a little bit of an awkward conversation, but how much attraction to cock? I give it like a 2%. 2%. For lesbianism, I was already pretty gay before I joined Newgrounds. Stickman Markinson says, so what made you got into Newgrounds? How did you find the website? And congratulations on being here for 14 years. So I discovered Newgrounds probably around maybe 2000, 1999, 2000. I remember when Club of Seal was around, so I found Club of Seal, and I used to play Club of Seal and Assassin a lot. How did I find the website? I just Google. Back when Google was actually not a piece of shit and didn't expressly tailor search results for political campaigns, it used to be a decent search engine. Which people have a good sense of figuring out whether art or audio submissions are breaking guidelines? Because I need some that I can converse often so that my reports will be A+ accurate. I wouldn't say it's even necessarily just people. You could probably talk to Seth or Nekomika. Any audio moderator could answer your questions. There's obviously the threads in the audio forums. So, Lex Rodent. Honestly, I wouldn't even say it's people. I would say that just look in general and what's being reported in the rule-breaking audio thread. I even forgot what that's called right now, just because I'm a little camera shy. But I've seen your reports. You're doing good so far. As long as you read the rules, you should be fine. Seth says, so I understand that you joined the military. Thank you for your service. That being said, what made you make that decision, and how has that changed you? So, ever since I was a little kid, I always wanted to be a fireman, and then a policeman, and then a soldier. But I think one of the defining moments for me was watching 9/11 on live television as a little 6-year-old in the first grade, and everyone around me frozen in terror staring at the screen. The only thing I could think about was wanting to be one of those police officers going in there and getting people out of that situation. Like the people jumping out of the building to get away from the fire, the people screaming on the street watching the planes plow into the building, everybody in my class seeing the demolitions charges in a row going off in a series at the bottom of the tower and not knowing what the hell that was. Well, my dad had a best friend who was a ranger who used to come, and he would drink with my dad and play guitar and play, I think it was 007 GoldenEye with me. And his specialty was demolitions. And so I remember him just talking about all the cool stuff he got to do with explosives and how they would just set them off in a line at the bottom of the building. That's the first thing that I saw. And I'm like, I don't know who would have set those charges, but I was pretty damn dead sure they were there. And so my mom was like, well, you can't be a firefighter, because of course firefighters are going in there and dying from saving people. You can't be a police officer, because that's way too dangerous. They're going in there, they're dying from saving people. And you sure as hell can't be a soldier. And all my life, that's all I wanted to do was go out and be a soldier. So what did I do? I'm pretty sure that those of you on Newgrounds who have talked to me may have at one point or another heard why I left home and what happened to me. I'll just kind of put it shortly. I was sexually assaulted. The cops didn't really do anything about it, despite there being physical evidence. And I had been at home for 2 years after my dad passed, was at probably the lowest point in my life, and my brother rescued me and was like, you've already graduated college, you've been out of college 2 years, your dad's been gone 2 years, why don't you have a job, why don't you have this, why don't you have that, why aren't you driving, you've got to get a job, I'm going to take you in for 2.5 months maybe, and if by the end of that you still don't have a freaking job, like, I'm going to try to set you up. You're going to come to my wife's wedding, or excuse me, you're going to come to our wedding, and then you're going to settle down for about a month. You're going to start looking for a job, and if you don't have a job in about a month and a half, or you're not at least looking, I'm going to throw your shit in the yard. And so that's what I did. I started calling places. I started applying everywhere. I walked miles and miles and miles, putting in applications. I called the Marines. I called the Navy. I called the Air Force. And then the Army called me. And I was at that point in my life where I'll be honest, I was kind of a shitbag. I was just doing my own thing. Like, maybe the only thing I had going for me was my music. I kind of lost sight of things. I was dating this guy, and I won't even go into the details of that, but I was nowhere near ready for a relationship, and that was about the only thing I was focused on. I was dead set that we were going to be married. My brother was like, yeah, if I find your name in the wedding registry anywhere from here to Louisiana, I'm throwing your shit in the yard. So it finally got around time for me to leave for basic training. And, I'd probably go through it again. It was not a bad experience. It was physically pretty grueling, but it wasn't to the point where, like I got hurt. I'm still hurt from basic training. It's no joke. But for the first time in my life, I was doing something completely on my own. Even though it was drill sergeants making me do the push-ups, even though it was drill sergeants making me do that 2-mile run, even though it was drill sergeants making me do sit-ups, I was still doing something for the first time. I was still able to call something my own. Like, I was still, like, my good marksmanship score was because I did it. It wasn't because anyone did it for me. It wasn't because anyone gave it to me. It was literally, I went out and I earned it. And that was the first time I'd ever had that experience. Now, before I went into basic training, I worked at Popeyes for like 2 months or something like that. Like, I think it was from January, 2.5, yeah, from January to March, but I was still not mature enough to sit there and save my money. I was spending my money on, like, hotels and buying all sorts of clothes and everything like that, which felt good. Like, it felt good to have my own money. But I had never had my own volition to do something. It was always because someone suggested something to me to do. So when I got there, and they're teaching you leadership skills, they're teaching you teamwork, I realized, like, this is who I am. I'm not some weak little kid who they told couldn't do anything, was not strong enough to get through it. It doesn't matter how much this drill sergeant talks down to me. I can still go out there and I will do the task and I will meet the standard. And it doesn't matter if this is like a 16K ruck march and my ruck is like a third of my body weight, I'm still going to go. It doesn't matter that I'm 1.5 feet shorter than the person in front of me. Like, by God, I can run him over if I want to. Or, like, I can squat down with this rucksack that's a third of my body weight, and I can get back up. The first time that happened, I wasn't even able to get back up. But it was like, just how much you can do in 9 weeks if you just have the motivation to get through. And there were so many people who, just because they no longer wanted to be there, just because, oh, it's hard, they would find all kinds of BS reasons, medical waivers, not waivers, to try and get chaptered out of the Army, whether it was for psychological reasons, or even because they'd lied about asthma, and they just suddenly decided that, oh, I'm going to allow my asthma to get to me now, to get out. And this was like nobody in my battery or anything like that, but it was people that I would meet when I was getting treated for my knee, which I hurt in basic. I hurt my shoulder too, but I'm having complications with that now. But it wasn't bad enough to keep me from graduating. It got to the point where I never thought that I was going to be able to make the run. And like the run standards for females for the APFT are quite a bit slower than the male standards. But for my age group, it was I had to get a 1935 2-mile, and coming 2 years off the couch, even having started to train up for this run, I was still running like a 1940 or a 1950. The first time I ran like I think I ran a 12-minute mile, which is like a 24-minute 2-mile, even if you don't account for slowing down. That's like a crazy, it'd probably be like a 25 or a 26-minute 2-mile, which you may as well walk that. In fact, the first PT test I took, I got really tired, and I think I walked about maybe 1/8 of a mile. It got to the point where I think I took like 5 PT tests in the last 2 weeks of basic training. One just to get me to where I could go on the forge, and the last one just to make sure I could graduate on time. And I was just like, it got to the point where I was like, I would just pray and beg God to help me pass the run, pass the push-ups, etc. I couldn't even do a single push-up until like week 8 or something like that. It was pretty bad. Now I know that's because I had a hurt shoulder, but then I thought I was just being a wuss. But like that pain and stuff I was pushing through, that definitely, I used to just be completely intolerant of any kind of pain, any kind of actually having to push for it. When I was in like marching band and stuff like that, when we did our runs, when we did our like marching, it was hard, but it wasn't so hard that I'd like stopped. It was something I enjoyed, but this was me pushing through pain for something I hate, that I know I have to do. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that changed me. But my final PT test, I had to make that 1935. Somebody had already paced me, and I had passed out after the last PT test and failed my run again. This time, I was already convinced that I had failed the push-ups because my drill sergeant just got frustrated with me and just stopped me. And I did my sit-ups, and like I went on, I was just dead sure that I was failing it. But I ran and I ran and I ran, and I was to the last lap. And the next thing I know, I hear this drill sergeant coming up behind me. My pacer's running with me. And my drill sergeant's like, you got 1 minute to get this run. 1 minute. You have to make this curve in 1 minute. And she's running, she's sprinting and talking to me at the same time. She's like, you fucking push. You fucking push and you finish this run. You could make it if you just push. And then she went back to go and try to get other people behind me to also run. Even though she probably knew that they were lost causes, but like, I didn't think I could do it. And I was like, there's no freaking point. I'm already pretty sure I failed my push-ups. But I ran, and I passed that run by 1 single second. Then we went to breakfast, and I was downtrodden because I was pretty sure that I failed, because they don't give you your cards back after you finish your test. And so we go through breakfast. I go through the whole first half of the day thinking I'm a complete failure, that I'm going to be one of those kids shaking hands at graduation practice as everybody else goes through and practices saying their name, where they're from, and all that other BS, so that we look nice, prim, and proper for the ceremony. Then lunch runs around, and my drill sergeant comes up to me, and she says, you know, I don't know how you did it. And she has her hat down to here. But you passed. Barely. But you passed. And so it was tears streaming down my face. Because, I mean, the one thing that I'd been a complete shitbag about the entire time was passing the freaking PT test. Everything else I was good at. I was good at all the creeds and the shooting and the everything else except for maybe the grenades, because I'll be honest, they made me throw the grenades 9 times. Because the first grenade, I dropped in the pit, and then I jumped down in the pit and started screaming grenade in the pit, and And the sergeant just yanks me up and says, "Why in the hell would you jump inside the pit with the grenade?" And I'm like, "Look, you gave us like 20 seconds of instruction and then barely, like, didn't even give us like time to practice throw." It was, luckily it was a practice grenade, so I didn't get blown up. I would have gotten blown up, and they probably figured this out real early on with real grenades, but actually that's probably the most embarrassing part of my, my training was I had both an X, a, weak throw, and a sidearm on my helmet at the same time before they finally just drew a big circle around the X after they made me throw 9 times to be like, "Okay, she's fine now." They made me and the girl who had taken cough medicine throw first with the real live grenades. Like, that's the kind of experience that I had where I was that dumbass, where I was that weak, shitty dumbass, and there were still people who did worse than me somehow. And I think that's kind of what changed me. It's like, you know, other people may not have to genuinely try to do a lot of these things that you're doing, but, you know, this is not your skill set, but if you genuinely try, you can get through it. And so that's probably what's changed the most about me, just from being through basic and then coming through the rest of my training, because like the schools they put you through are pretty demanding. They're mentally challenging, and the entire time you're watching your mental health, you're watching your physical health, and you're keeping up that standard. Sometimes you're worrying about, is the person beside you going to be a fucking creeper? And or are they going to make up accusations of like sexual harassment or something else about you, or any other kind of harassment, just to basically get you out of their hair? It's rare, but it does happen. And then sometimes you're really worrying about somebody being a creeper, like what happened to, I forget her last name, but her first name was Vanessa, I think it's Vanessa Gillen. Yeah. Who was murdered by a sergeant after, I don't know the whole story, because it's really hard for me to look at. But we recently had a memorial for her where this creeper sergeant, I guess, took a liking to her, started creeping on her, murdered her, entombed her in concrete, and then killed himself when it finally came out that in the investigation that he was the culprit. So yeah, the Army has made me a little bit more cynical. It's made me more sure of what I want out of life. It's taken me to a point where I'm financially independent. So that's another big thing. Like, I no longer complain about instruments being super expensive or something like that. If I want something bad enough, I weigh the costs of whether, you know, like whether I should buy it or not. Like, am I actually going to use it? I started supporting software developers a whole lot more. So it's been a pretty big change. Like, morally, I feel like I am a better person now than I was when I first joined the Army. One of the other things that's changed is when it comes to my religion, I really struggled with that coming through basic training. And I think it was, like I was mentioning earlier, where I just got so upset that it seemed like sometimes every time I prayed to God, I would get the exact opposite of what I wanted. Like, I prayed to God to keep my relationship with the guy that I was talking about, that I was super distracted by, intact, and it did nothing but get worse. I prayed to God to pass my PT tests, and every time that I prayed, and in fact, the one time I didn't pray is the one time I passed, to put it that way. Every time I prayed to do well in literally anything, I would do terrible, and then find out, oh, you're fine. You're still fine. So it's one of those things where feeling like I'm getting my prayers answered, but always in the way that I don't want. So I'm kind of just struggling with that right now. Struggling with my faith is pretty much, it's a pretty big thing. I'm more willing to help other people now. Like, I spend most of my time helping, like, tutoring other people, whether it's offline or whether it's here. And that's pretty much it. I'm a completely different person now than I was when I signed up. And I don't know, who knows, maybe when my contract is up, I'll do an update on that and be like, how different am I now? Opposed to, like, being, God, what was I think I was 23 when I first signed up. I might have been 24, 23, 24. So 23, 24 to like 30. Second part of the question, also more closely related to Newgrounds, why did you turn to making beats? How did you develop your style? And why Newgrounds of all places for your content? First of all, I did not choose Newgrounds. Newgrounds just kind of attracted me in, like, you know, like a moth to flame, and I dicked around here for several years before I actually got serious about making content. I'll admit, I used to actually flout the rules a lot. I would upload crap like Punk-O-Matic, or just upload a bunch of fucking Mixcraft loops and then disparage people for calling me out on it. So you gotta remember, I was kind of a kid when I signed up. I was, let's see, 06, I was 11 years old. So, little asshole me. I had a couple accounts before that. I can't even remember all the names that I had, but I know one of them was Tom FUIP, FU capital IP. Almost all the posts off of that account, I think, have been deleted, and any other crap that I posted, but I figured out that the capital I and L were passable enough that I could just make a spoof account and pretend to be Tom. Which I thought was cool at the time. Tom was like the coolest person that I could possibly envision as a little 11-year-old kid, because, like, web designer, did Flash games, was reasonably internet famous. But yeah, I turned to actually the audio portal after I started, I listened to a lot of DJ Ene, which is, or NA or whatever, it was DJ-ENE, and Cybot, Paragon X9, and then I moved on to, God, I think it's CWN and Xenogenocide. So those were some of my favorite artists on Newgrounds, and I'm like, hey, I want to be like them. But I had no actual skill to be like them, and what do you do when you're a kid? You cheat. When you don't have skill, you just cheat. So my journey to developing my style was a lot of experiencing cheaters never prosper. Why I started making beats in general, actually, I could probably go back to 2008 is where most of my old stuff is, and a lot of it's been deleted. But this was the first actual freaking song that I made, and I'd just gotten like I think it was like $100 guitar from Sam's Club or something like that. Are we gonna play? Don't play this game with me. No, I'm just gonna go to the page. Okay, this one works. So, something I came up with in an hour after experimenting with some riffs. I was bored, mind you, so yeah, not my best. I was like, yeah, I know this is shit, but you're not allowed to give me anything other than a 5. The good thing is, there is actually bass. That is why it's going to sound weird in some places. Okay, it sounds really bad! And it isn't acoustic. The amp is just turned down. Actually, I was just plugged into my fucking computer. The bad thing is, no vocals or drums. I came up with some. I actually didn't. But they just wouldn't do it justice. Again, rate and review. Hope you guys enjoy. So... So that's 2008. One of the first things I actually uploaded here when I started trying to make content. And I gave up for a little while after several of these. I used to have a whole lot more, but I've removed them because they were either like Punk-O-Matic or loops or something like that. So breaking the rules, for those of you who don't know what I mean. Got an honest attempt. Which is 8 freaking minutes long. That's 2009. I'm just gonna skip. So, not as shitty. I actually remember I was doing this late at night, probably like 1 o'clock, while my mom and stepdad were asleep in the carport. They were not asleep in the carport. I was in the carport. And I remember it'd be like super freaking smoked up because my mom, she would just sit out there doing her, what was it, like her medical business office technology crap. What does the end sound like? Okay, I think it's about done. I might actually redo this. Like, it's not that that's a bad riff, I just didn't know what the hell I was doing, didn't actually plan the whole pieces. Wait, these have reactions now? Ooh, somebody made me mad. Good job. I think you did a good job and succeeded. I like how you pushed all of the wrong notes and made it sound like a walrus having sex with a sheep. I'm like, LOL, nice attempt at a failing review. I love how your constructive criticism was so godly that it nearly made my eyes bleed. You might want to consider getting your mental stability reevaluated before you criticize someone else's work, especially when you haven't amounted to shit yourself. Oh. Breaker, we have a bad case of a 13-year-old's self-jackassery going on here. This is what happens when you think you're cool. Guys, be careful. Okay, this is when I was in, like music theory school, so probably right around 2015. And I took a huge break. I feel like this is Pink Floyd, but gent, but also not. So look at my freaking tags, high as fuck, which I was not, because back then it was just like weed was cool. Kids don't do drugs, not a joke, and weed. Yeah. First real, I would consider it a beat that I made, was a joke that I made with my niece. And it sounds like this.
This is us. My name's Kelsey. That's Twin over there. That's Drea. What's up, Drea? Yeah. This is us. We're kind of high right now. You know. Don't tell my mom either, right? But this is us. We got a new rap for y'all. It's called Weed.
Say no damn rap, y'all.
What is called? All in my face. Weed down to my waist. Weed down my back. Don't mess up these tracks. We don't got no tracks. I don't got no money no more. I broke up and leave these tracks up for 6 months or more. This is us. My name's Kelsey. That's Twin over there. That's Drea. What's up, Drea? Yeah.
So it started there, and I was like, well, making trap is comparatively easy compared to these other types of music that I'm trying to get into. It seems like something that'd be easy to learn. So where did I even post that? So that was 2014. That was right when I was, I think, my first year of college. And then I actually started getting some pretty good success going into electronic. I didn't go back into trap because I couldn't figure out how to get it like a decent sounding 808. But I had 2 tracks here, Skyfall and Acceptance, that did really well. So that kind of gave me a little bit of hope. So I went into EDM for a while. So, and then Acceptance. So by here I have, I think, CS1 bass VST. I've gone, actually I may have misspoke earlier when I said that the weave joke rap was my jumping off point into trap. Everything kind of gets just blended together sometimes. So I started doing electronic music. I started pulling out drum samples, like especially with Acceptance, you notice, I think that's actually verbatim some like free sounds drum loops or some shit that I pulled up. But the dulcimer in the background is like that constant arpeggio to kind of just keep it in the same key, and then the bass just kind of octave jumps and does some little lead lines. I was listening to a whole lot of Krayshawn and who else? It was like Krayshawn and Nero at the time, which is a pretty interesting combination. And then Korn, I think, was when they were doing their kind of dubstep metal or something like that, which I was just absolutely freaking in love with. I remember when I used to play Tribal Wars, there was a guy that was obsessed with this one that I made right here, which it's like a combination of cut bass loops and some other stuff. Like literally just cutting out some like bass stabs, and I made this bass line here, and also with like CS bass one. big growly bass, CS bass 1, and the ones, like almost all of those stabs, I just took different bass lines from, say, free sample packs or something like that, and chopped up the runs in a way that I liked, reversed them, manually placed them actually in the mixer, because by this time I think I was still making music and having to actually render each individual track to a wave and then crunch them down into another lane in Mixcraft. Like, I didn't have a full version of my software, I don't think, at this point. Until I started doing trap, I never had a full version. Like, I was still doing that when I think this one's actually commission. Yeah, commission for Magic Swords. Okay, so it finally loaded, I think, here. So I actually think I can't remember what I used to use. It was this kick generator, and I used it both to make the kick and the snare. That's why it sounds so crunchy. But it was ridiculously unwieldy to work with. I remember that. But I used, I think it was either massive or CS1 bass on this track here. And so like you hear right there, all of that really crunchy low end that I just couldn't get out of it. Like the kick, there was no way to really curtail that going on, and it's getting in the way of my bass. I had no way of sidechaining because sidechaining was not native in Mixcraft. I think this was maybe 6 or 7. It could have been 7. But as you can hear, everything's really crunchy sounding and kind of smashed on top of itself. I think the synths I was using at this time would have been probably Adonis or something like that for leads and bass. That was kind of what I was working with, that really cluttered sound, super overly reverb, not really knowing what I was doing. I think I got massive and then did overdosed maybe. Yeah, that's massive. At this time I was still like manually cutting any beat samples that I had. So I was stretching out the play bar here and then just dropping those samples on there. I did this up until Omni Sampler came out, I think, with Mixcraft 7. You can imagine taking all those individual hits and clipping them down, searching through sample packs, stuff like that, every time you needed a new sound, or just having to go back and find the last time you used it, and then copy it, and then cut it. That's how I approached making my music. Oh yeah, this is, that's CS1 bass VST, and I did the same. those individual reverse drums and everything like that, I made all myself and would just, so I'd reverse it and then I'd back it onto the last hit. So it'd like, pow, pow, like that, because I really like that sound. I know there's different ways to do that now. Sometimes I will still do it with something like a cymbal. Like, I'll take a cymbal that I like, a sample, and I'll lay it right here for like a transition, and then I will copy it, paste it, reverse it, and then drag it over so that they kind of just overlap one another a little bit, and it softens the impact when you get that crossfade effect. I really like doing that still. What else? What else do I have? I took Clear Skies and I redid this into super cluttered with reverb, but you can more or less hear the lead, and I was trying to transition into doing stuff like that. But I was still, you could probably hear a lot of Paragon X9 influence when you're hearing those leads. Because that was who I looked up to, who I was looking at, who I was referencing my tracks against a lot of the times. Which was still pretty hard considering you're still crushing those waves on top of one another. It was literally like, you would see like this track stack, and then I'd hit render to new track, render to new track, render to new track, so I'd get all the waves and all the effects on top of one another. And then I would make a bunch of lanes, and I would kind of edit the volume levels where I thought they would sound half-assed good, and then clap a master limiter, and that was my song. That was how it was. Once it was mixed, it was done. But I also made some more aggressive stuff, like... Okay, I literally cannot handle that freaking hi-hat. But there's like 6 basses there. I'm still figuring out what I'm doing. There's like... Then I started going into trap. Because I'm just like, I'm not doing so great with my drum and bass or with my techno. I have no idea what I'm doing. There's some stuff that I made that I didn't post at the time. Like, I think maybe if I look... Tattoo All About Us... Please, Lajalista, load, thank. So, yeah, this is the one. So, actually I was wrong, that was before this, but I was just checking the date over there. So, I was working on some remixes and stuff that I never actually really posted anywhere because I was honestly really embarrassed about my sound. And if this will actually load, I started exploring more of like a trap sound. Initially, when I first started doing music, when I started out doing quote-unquote metal, which is more like indie rock or some bullshit like that, and I thought that trap was like BS music. And like I just didn't think that it took any talent to produce. I didn't think that like I was pretty much a snob about it. And so it just was this process of turning toward a more electronic means of production and turning away from seeing electronic music as BS music that I started to get kind of into this groove. I did not expect this to be so... This is supposed to be Bob Ross. Positive energy drink. Oof. So... that brought tears to my eyes. I got this from Hot Topic. I thought, mistakenly, that it would be a good idea to leave it out of the fridge and attempt to drink it with you guys. Oh my god. It kind of tastes like a Bang, if you guys have ever had one of those. But so, I think I actually even remember writing this song here. And it was after I had a breakup with a girlfriend I shall not name. And I had written this pretty long bunch of lyrics that I actually don't think I have anymore. They may be in like a text file on my, the old partition of my hard drive that I have stowed away somewhere. But I started writing trap music. Pretty seriously, you can see like trap, trap, trap. I think this is also trap. This is some other kind of EDM. I don't know what this is. This is the untagged trap beat that actually got me the version of my software that I use today. Video game music, I don't know what the hell this is. Trap, some other random genre that I don't know. Trap, trap, trap. Trap. I don't know what this is. I think this is some random EDM. I chopped up a live bass and turned it into a bass line for a reharmonization of the Skyrim theme. Actually, yeah, Seth, I think you gave me this MIDI for future fuck. So, basically, if you pass me that MIDI, I think it had maybe 1 or 2 notes in the melody line that you were hearing there, and I just made a whole harmony stack and like wrote a trap bass, like 808, and then took Omni Sampler and a bunch of stomping and clapping and other samples that I had laying around from either... I don't think I had cymatics back then. Like I maybe had some of their free packs or something like that, and then some other free drum packs that were on the web. But I started seriously making trap mostly because it was the genre that kind of paid off the most. Like I made this tutorial right here. So nothing super special. showed my instruments and everything. The reason why I did that is, nope. Okay, I was asked to make a tutorial. I'm about to explain to you why I was asked to make the oh, here it goes. So, I hacked Mixcraft 7. Here I am shitting on it. So basically I made this video right here, which has since been removed. Oh, I did actually say I was dumb enough to make a video about hacking Mixcraft. But, so I took a regedit and deleted some registry keys to make Mixcraft stop reminding me to buy it every 5 seconds when I would hit like a play button or something. I was really freaking mad when I made this video, as you can see. So people have a habit of getting mad when you subvert their attempts to force you to immediately drop monies you have in short supply on their products. Exhibit A on Twitter. I wouldn't be surprised if you tried to get me blacklisted. And this is Joseph Clark, who is one of the developers of Mixcraft. So I was like, Mixcraft annoying you with buy now ads? Here's how to hack the trial. You can work on your tracks, ... And it was just a video not even showing how to make it a full version of the product, but to just get it to stop rolling that unskippable, like, play roll thing when you just hit play and it's like, please, buy Mixcraft now, instead of playing your track. And so he says, yeah, I hate it when we try and sell stuff to earn a living, thanks for the information. But, so that started a conversation, and I eventually, I'm a broke college kid, I can't afford your software, I can't work on my tracks if every 5 seconds your software is reminding me to buy it. Like, I could easily switch over to Reaper or some other, basically, damn near free-to-play software. So he's like, alright, I'll make you a deal. If you, tell you what, if you make a tutorial on how you make your music, I'll give you the basic version of the program for free. So I made this tutorial, and then suddenly I had a working freaking copy of Mixcraft, because I was really surprised that he kept his word. I thought that I was going to be, like, banned or some other crap like that. But he didn't screw me over, he just did me a huge freaking... I've actually, I bought Mixcraft 9 as soon as I was able to. Like, as soon as I heard there was an upgrade, because, like, it's... Not only is the software worth it, but it's just like, he did me a favor, why don't I do him a favor? Yeah, I started looking at more and more mixing tutorials, writing tutorials. I was in school, 2016 was the year that my dad passed, and when I seriously got into making music. So I'd been doing it a while, kind of had an idea of my program, everything else. Actually, I started getting into Vocaloid not long after that. So you can already hear production's kind of improving, getting under control after actually having some decent working software going on. Then I started making metal music after this, which was a whole nother journey in itself, kind of, because my instrumentals were already pretty heavily influenced by writing metal, like complex hi-hat patterns if I could manage it, trying to use, like, a little bit more of an unusual sound pattern. My lead writing, all that stuff was influenced by metal, like metal and synthwave, so you can hear that here. I still didn't have any, like, realistic guitar software, so I was relegated to chopping samples still. So here you can already hear, like as a sort of side effect of having guitars that don't really sound great, the tendency is to kind of push them down in the mix under everything so they're still there, and so it's still metal, but you're just hiding them out of the eye, which consequently, it makes them sound worse than if you would just be like, hey, these sound like shit, they're still there, they're still my guitars, what are you gonna do? But this is when I got my microphone. It had just come in, I think, previously when I did like single awareness special, which is...
Can you tell me one damn thing right now I don't know about love?
I was using actually, I think an iPod headset or something. It sounded like this.
I'm tired of the arguments, tired of the fights, tired of the shit I never got right. He takes better care of it, he does it all, but I ain't waiting for a phone call. I'm so done with shit, I heard it all. Bitches in my past had me climbing walls. Half of them I'll half miss, but I'll remember every last kiss. I'm not looking back, I'm thinking on it. I don't move forward, back in the corner. Can I give love or will I give loss? If I love again, what is the cost? I punch the window straight to your heart, and I cut my thumb and I left the scar. Remember the stitches I got, fought for your sake when the world forgot. Opposites, sometimes attract, sometimes those opposites just don't react. Never did nothing but hold you close and wish your thoughts had an impact. Those were my little hurts, the rest loud sounds, harsh words. Before I used to spit first, for the first time I hit first. Now my life is inverse, no sticks, no stones, no words hurt. Cause I feel nothing unrehearsed, almost wish I could reverse the damage.
So you hear how different that sounds compared to, let's see, having like a $20 microphone here. So, completely different mixing on the microphones, but the second one, yeah, with single awareness special, it was basically trying to mix those headphones in a way, like even without being able to truly mix really anything, because I was forced to render everything to a wave. But just trying to EQ out those dirty frequencies and then use the master limiter, because I didn't have any decent compressor plugins at the time with that trial version of Mixcraft 7 to do anything with. Here, I think I have maybe, it may even be like RIA comp or something like that on these, and then RIA Q. Okay, that might have been, it was sometime in this year I started listening to Chernobyl Studios in like metal mixing and stuff like that. But what made me want to kind of turn to metal, there's only so much I feel like I could express in terms of like having just lost my dad and having gone through all that stuff into, well, you can't exactly write a dope-ass rap about your dad passing. It's like, it's really difficult to do. I was feeling a lot of anger and resentment at the time, not just kind of for being abandoned. It's what I felt like. I literally felt like I had just been abandoned and kind of thrown into the world. Like, what are you doing here? Granted, I lived in the basement. I literally lived in my mother's basement at this time. So imagine just me screaming into a shitty $20 Walmart mic in my mom's basement. And she'd come down the stairs or something like, and you're doing your vampire music again. Not that she actually sounds like that, but that's just kind of what was going on. I think I was doing intermittent like paint jobs and stuff in between, and sitting with my girlfriend at Books A Million. May or may not have been doing that while I mixed this for the last time, I think. But So here, like you're just noticing, it's still super cluttered mixing. I was listening to a lot of Nightwish at the time, so like you hear more of the orchestral elements with, I think it was Sinful Orchestra, which is SYNFUL Orchestra, for those violins, which is, it does really great for, but for some reason it no longer works with my computer. Actually, most parts of that are Sinful Orchestra. All the clarinets, all of the, which actually I think that's later in the song. The drum kit itself is just the default Mixcraft drum kit, which has pretty decent velocity responses. Maybe a black nose snare or something like that, too. Because I had a tendency to kind of double those up together. Yeah, it's either black nose snare, cherry snare, or the Mixcraft default. I'm not looking at my author's comments, so I couldn't tell you definitively. But I took a whole lot of inspiration from Nightwish, from Epica, from sometimes like Apocalyptica or something like that, which I listened to earlier. Flyleaf, because this was, I think this was like right before I became a Christian, or right after. And let's see. So, and here I have, like, I had recently just learned how to scream properly without actually hurting my vocal cords. And there are some great tutorials on YouTube how to do that. You have to just kind of watch out. But I was watching a lot of, I think, it may have been Ken Tamplin, but before I had his course. So, and I was just been classically trained in like choral singing and stuff like that years before with choir. So I was kind of developing that a little bit. Not that I was ever like a particularly great singer. I still don't really consider myself a decent singer, even though now, like, people sometimes, when I'll show them my tracks in person, they'll be like, "That's you singing? That's a for real thing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I have this thing called Melodyne that keeps me from sounding like shit." Of course, like, people, they don't really know that. They think that, I mean, you still have to have a modicum of talent to be able to sound good with autotune, with Melodyne, etc., etc. But, ooh, I've been holding that one in a minute. So, the solo section that you're about to hear was literally me cutting up various guitar solos and stapling them together, because, I mean, granted, it's pretty hard to make that work, but I'm gonna let it roll. after this, there's just a fade out. So you can kind of hear here a lot of trying to have complex rhythms sometimes for like no reason at all other than to just be kind of complex. I really like to write a lot of harmonies when I can. Sometimes, like, I have to resist that now, sometimes just to write stack upon stack upon stack upon, like, what's the 7th of this, what's the, like, 9th of this, what's the 13th of this, blah, blah, blah. So that definitely comes from kind of a music theory background. At this point, I was, like, compensating for wanting to do types of music I did not have the instrumentation to actually do. So you get stuff like Crown of Thorns, where you have, like, wow, that's some pretty decent, like, that could be some pretty decent, maybe, like, power metal ballad or whatever. But you don't even have a bass, because you have just a synth bass, you have guitar to loops that you've chopped up to make your guitar parts, and they're obviously, like, pitch shifted for every how often. You haven't even really used, like, a sampler for that. Or then you have just, like, flat out synth like this here. So you're like the build-ups, the build-ups, the build-ups, not really kind of knowing where I'm going with the piece. Being weird intentionally for absolutely no reason. I think that's definitely a part of kind of, that's always been an element of my writing, is just trying to be freaking weird. You can even hear it say, like, I wrote this piece after my dad passed, and it's just kind of a raw recording into my $20, what was it, Walmart microphone. It may even be headphones, I don't know.
You left behind a red eye cruise, stained on white snow. Where did you go when the night grew cold? While inside I poured, 'cause my mother
can hear the like trappy 808 in the background, kind of just hiding into there. The hi-hat pattern, the bit crushed snare. I don't even think it's actually a snare. I think it's a bit crushed hi-hat or something, or shaker, that I wanted to use as a snare. And like that kind of naked bit right there. I transitioned more in this time into kind of, I was just less afraid to show myself lyrically, vocally to the world. Mostly, like, I thought that, oh, I've got a microphone now, like a real microphone, and not a freaking, like, you see people talking into their earphone or singing into their earphone in these different apps. Like, it didn't really occur to me that, hey, you can still do that. I was kind of concerned with the cool factor back then. So I was still shy. I started writing more about emotional topics, like my dad having passed, like Dreams and Origami Heart here are just about the feelings that I went through in that time. So here I kind of had a more, like almost an 80s ballad inspiration. Because I started listening to more Def Leppard, Bon Jovi, stuff like that, Journey. I still listen to Nightwish a whole lot, still listen to Krayshawn. But I started writing more about, like, emotional topics that were kind of further away from that fantasy vibe. And you can obviously hear those reverse cymbals in there that I was talking about earlier. You can hear the, like, the omni-sampler drums where I've just smashed a clap into there, and, like, a big kick sample. Which, honestly, there was way too much kick in that song. It would, I remember we used to listen to, in my ex-fiance's Bug, we would sit there driving down the road and be just shaking the doors off. And I'm like, why can't I hear anything but the kick? And it's like, probably because our mixing is shit. But I still, like, I wrote a ton of poetry in this time about just stuff I felt after my dad passed. Okay, so you can definitely hear here that big 80s splashy, spacey kind of snare, but it's like a ballad type snare. I didn't really know anything about how to do like gated reverb at the time, I don't think, but I started using, I think I may have even had Zebra at this time, but it's like I got Vocaloid, started applying a little bit more theory to my work, and right around this time I actually got Shreddage shortly after Vocaloid. Vocaloid was really hard to program with, so I didn't do a whole lot of these songs, but I kind of took to writing my vocals as if I were writing for Vocaloid. So, here's when I first got Shreddage. I didn't even have a bass at the time, so it still sounded like just utter... So you see like all the different solos completely covered up with reverb, still learning how to use my software, but like lots of really complex writing that probably could have honestly, like it just kind of sounds all in at the same time. So I'm still figuring out how to phrase things at this point. Be my breakdown. I don't know where I may have put it. It might have been... So this was kind of an exercise in discovering, I think for me, the value of having decent mixing headphones, because the headphones that I was talking about right here, like the mixing headphones, I think they were maybe like SH10s or something like that. I even forget what brand they were. I can picture them in my head, but I can't remember. I think it was Sentry's, or yeah, Sentry HM10s. And they had a really, really crisp, great treble for like listening to music, but they would overemphasize that treble if you were mixing your own music, so they were just kind of the precursor to me getting these Audio-Technica ACH M40s. And just like, you can hear how this mix is like super centered. I revisited, what was it? Broken Hearts and Headaches or whatever I freaking called it. So this one right here. This song here, and la-di-da, 9 years later. as you can see, it got front paged. I'd like to actually personally thank Badman Incorporated for giving me the review that he did back then. Just even telling someone, hey, I'd like to see you revisit this later. Just think about that can have a lot of effect on a developing musician. Like, hey, this idea is not terrible. It doesn't sound great now, but... So from this right here, or this would be the fixed version. Oh, never mind. So from that to the front page with, God, where did it even go? I think I lost it. Nine years is a huge freaking change, but kind of trying to keep it the same style. Like, I still have a lot of the melodic inspirations that I did when I was younger. I still have a lot of the same writing tendencies I did when I was younger. But it just came down to basically listening to what you guys had to say. Because there are, like, some of my fans here have been my fans for years and years and years. Never, never gave up on me. Never just been like, oh, she's just kind of a dumbass, even though I was a dumbass back in the day. And so that's kind of one of the things that kept me around. And Newgrounds has really been, like, SoundCloud never leaves you freaking comments like that. And YouTube never leaves you comments like that. They're like, cool, or they, like, drive by, view, leave. So Newgrounds has been an integral in developing my style. So shortly after that, I started getting way more into metal, just kind of like I did way into trap. And one of probably the defining moments for me was, I think I did this remix. This one was also front paged. I'm really grateful for that, because a lot of times I don't think that I deserve it. But, so Can You See the Clouds Divide? It was just her a cappella and the original song itself. And I still take a lot of my, loop cutting and sample cutting expertise. Got really into sentence mixing, so, like, YouTube poop is a genre of video that was my favorite thing on YouTube at the time. Still is my favorite genre of video. And I chopped Can You See the Clouds Divide, giving way to open blue skies, is the rain now far behind, will you spread your wings and fly high, into I love you, Annette, I pray for you every day, don't give up, as you can hear here.
Can you see the clouds divide? Spread your
developing a little bit more lead writing skill, developing a little bit more mixing. Yeah, because I was paying attention pretty heavily to Chernobyl Studios. Did another piece. It was LaForge at the time, but it's Ultramartyr now. Put out like a demo and was like, hey, try out for this here. We're doing like a metal band, an internet metal band. Initially I didn't make it, but later he came out with the song and I'm like, hey, remember like way back when I sent you this horribly freaking mixed like stem of like synths, and you're like, we're looking for more of a Cannibal Corpse vibe. This is kind of not what we're going for here. And I was like, okay, can I just remix your track? And so I did, and it doesn't really sound particularly great, but I was able to, yeah, like you mentioned here, I was able to tab out the song with like the bass part, the drums, everything else. I made some like tempo changes that I thought made it move a little better, and kind of a new desert soundy guitar solo somewhere in the middle. And this is right where that big solo section was. Actually, now that I was listening to probably about the 1 minute mark or so, I remembered that there were previously, I think, no solos on this particular song, and I think that's what they were asking for. Let's see if it'll play here. I listened to this over and over to tab it out. But You know, actually, now that I listen to this, I think I told you the wrong story. I think the Lunar Fantasy is the one that I made a weird-ass cowboy solo on. But this one, there's still a lot of solo sections that I added in that were not there before that I was actually pretty surprised I was able to do with Shreddage, Shreddage is a freaking great instrument, I will say. Like, you can hear how it responds pretty well. Oh, I think my roommate is actually coming home. Yeah, my roommates are coming home. Let me... So you can hear a lot of, I think I had the Metal Factory drums, or the Metal Foundry drums. Yeah, for Contact I had Shreddage 2 guitars, then I had a combination of ABPL by Ample Sounds bass, which is a standalone VST, and if I remember correctly, I probably used whatever bass comes like factory stock with FL Studio. I downloaded basically all the free FL Studio instruments I possibly could, used Camel Crusher, and some other stuff on the, I think I may have used it on, like, individual drum tracks, something like that. But like, here is kind of more or less figuring out my mixing. It doesn't sound great, but it doesn't sound horrible either. I think I may have updated this, yeah, with some mastering, because that was where I was really suffering at the time. But if you listen to, say, so like all the extra little synth lines you're hearing here was written on top of this track. The mix is a little tinny, but he has some hearing damage, so it is what it is. So I made all of those different synths in Massive. I was honestly so offended when initially he was like, "Nuh-uh, this is not what we're looking for." And you can hear the mixing here is just terrible, crammed together, still trying to figure out what I'm doing. The amps I was using was, I think it was like Nick Crow leads or something like that, an Emissary amp, which is not a bad amp, by the way. I just didn't know what the hell I was doing with it. I would definitely say Ultramartyr was probably one of the defining artists that I like worked with specifically to kind of coalesce all these different elements into a cohesive sound, because like I definitely have a lot of classical influence, I definitely have a lot of EDM influence, and then trap and metal. So it's just like a matter of trying to combine all of those things into one. But working with him, I actually got noticed by Jazarto, who, like, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing this right, but I made a couple tracks for him. I still think I owe you, from different MIDIs and stuff that he sent me. Like Oncoming Storm is probably the best one that came out of this. So what you hear right there, those different drum parts that I wrote, I always try to sing every part that I have. I already had like the going on in the background. That was part of the MIDI that he gave to me. But like using the bass line to kind of define what chord we're in, stuff like that, I started developing that. I was listening to Adam Neely. I was listening to like Ben Levin, lots of different polyrhythms, everything else. Then I took, I went to the army right after that, pretty much after I went back into trap for a little bit for like Ya Boy Lookin Like a Barbie. I actually remember my drill sergeants, while we were on the biggest part of basic training, which is like the forge, that's make it or break it time, which is all your big field exercises. And they're like, so, what's your story? And I'm like, I left music production to come into the army. And they were like, why in the hell did you do that? And so I was like, well, take a look for yourself, drill sergeant. And so they pulled up a cell phone. I put myself in the cell phone, and we listened to...
This song is for me, but everybody relates. Don't try to find a perfect copy, baby, I'll wait. I hate to be so blunt, but I'm about to escalate. Your boyfriend called, why he looking so emasculated? I shake my head, by time that I wasted. The person I was, girl, you know that I faced it. You just replaced it, I hope that you make it worth your while, cause I will never retrace it. Bitch, why your boy looking like a Barbie? Why your boy looking like a Barbie? Why your boy looking like I'm fucking gnarly, eat hard.
So, drill sergeants are going, why your boy looking like a Barbie? Around when I wrote that, I was staying with my brother and had just got out of the situation that I was talking about earlier that actually drove me to join the army. But the situation behind that was the ex-girlfriend that I told you about that this song that I wrote that long text about. That is also who...
I think this song is all about you.
Yeah, this song is about. I'm getting all the attention today. Hello? Yeah, I'm still working on my video. What? Hold on, I'm gonna pause. Okay, I'm back. I shut my roommate's door, and so as I talking about, yeah, Boy Looking Like a Barbie was written about the same chick that I wrote I Let Go about. You think the song is all about you, sure ain't about us, the thrill is gone, thinking about you, the people around you, I'm just saying, everybody sees all the shit that you playing. Always lying while you laying, you just mad I wasn't staying, you still ain't over me cause I'm the baddest bitch on the planet, gave you all you wanted, and now you wanna switch, you mad I wouldn't cheat when that's what I never wished. So, I had a fiance before who, this was still my ex-girlfriend, and I was dating someone else, and it got to the point where it was basically seeing both of them at the same time because me, as a weak person, was not able to let this chick, and we'll just call her M, go. And so she was always able to just kind of pull me back in. We were never good for each other. We were always super toxic. It ended very badly. Like, I left her, finally, like, I left her for good on her birthday, and had her sitting in my driveway for 2 hours crying because I wouldn't let her back in the house. And then she drove all the way back to Arkansas after having taken me to go see my brother. And, like, we went on a date when we went to go see my brother. We straight up went on a fucking date. My ex-fiance knows about this. I had just broken up with her because the stress of being sexually assaulted, like, can just pretty much break apart any relationship that's not, like, already like this. So there was all that shit going on, and actually let me move this before it freaking buzzes my microphone to death. But so she came into town. This was shortly after I'd been assaulted. I was still freaking the hell out. This was not long after the only way I found out that the guy was out of jail after I gave my statements was literally my mom and my sister and I. We went into Big Lots, and I swear to God, my sister and I went off to the back to look at notebooks or something. I turned around, and he was like 30 feet away across the store, and I recognized his stupid freaking dreadlock hair. That stupid, bleached at the back dreadlock. And I knew who he was, and I told my sister, that's him. That's the guy. I know it's him. She's like, now come on, sissy, you know he ain't out. Like, they just arrested him, you're gonna be fine, we're just gonna keep shopping, blah, 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 blah. And as one does, I didn't know at the time, like, I trusted her, I didn't know. This guy ended up following my mom through the store, didn't know that she was my mom, probably. But she said that he was following her around, was looking at her purse, so she just kept her purse close to her and just kind of walked around the store until he eventually decided she wasn't a good mark, and left her alone, and went to talk to some other store associate. We got even closer, got in the checkout line, I saw him again from behind. I'm like, that's him, get me the hell out of here. She's like, okay, we'll check out as fast as we can, and we'll go. Well, we were in the checkout line, we turned around, and there the bastard was, fucking smiling at me. So I'm like, and we got the hell out of the store. We went home. We called the prison. We jailed the prison, the parole officer. Parole officer was on freaking vacation, of course. And just went through all of this trouble to find out, yeah, he's out on the fucking street. And it's just totally fine for him to stalk you through a freaking business. That's totally fine. So I went through all that. I didn't go outside for like 2 weeks after this. Straight 2 weeks. This is when I called my brother. My brother's like, I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know if you're like a hustling little shit or what, but we're getting you out of there just on the off chance that you're telling the truth. Because my brother knew me, and I used to be, like, when I was a kid, like, my brother was a stranger to me from the time I was probably 9 years old. 9, 12, maybe saw me once or twice in those times, from 12 to, like, 23. Because he was living with his ex-wife, living with his girlfriends and stuff like that, and the most we ever saw each other per year, a couple days. So, and he was all stressed out, finally living the good life with his soon-to-be wife. He's like, we're getting you the hell out of there. Now, I was it was about 100 and something miles away from my hometown. And my ex-fiance, who I had just let him, like, look, I'm sorry, I can't really do this. There's no way for us to see each other. Like, I love you, I care about you. I can't willingly put you through this being with me, and I'm having to support you because you're stuck at your job and your job's trying to use you against me. That's just not a good situation. Let's just not talk. At least not talk. You know, check in with each other, fine. Still care about each other, fine, but care from a distance. But she told me that my ex-girlfriend, M, was in town because she saw her car. So I'm like, oh my god, like, where she saw her car was the Walmart, less than a mile from where I was sexually assaulted, less than a mile from where another friend of mine in the same freaking shopping area, because this happened in public, in a public restroom, in a small little outlet type shopping center. Inside of a Books A Million, and I forget, I think my friend worked at Lane Bryant at the time. And it happened to her outside when she was, I think, taking out the trash or something like that. I'm not going to say any names, because it's just, it was a bad time. And so I'm worried about this happening to my ex-girlfriend. Even though it's been years, even though it was like, I think, 2018 to 2016, like, I still, some part of me still fucking cares about this girl. But I was like, hey, look, I'm sorry all this BS happened. And I think actually a couple of weeks before that, someone else had said to me that M had told them while they were working like 2 or 3 towns away, and they were working at another Books A Million, that, God, like, I hate what happened with Adrian. I want to apologize. So I'm like thinking to myself, I don't know if this is true or not, but I mean, I guess it's open a communication line as any. We'd blocked each other and everything. But stupid me thought that maybe she wouldn't read, like, bad intent into what I'm saying. So I made another Instagram, and I messaged her, like, hey, I'm really sorry about what happened. Don't take this the wrong way. I don't mean anything by it. But someone told me they saw your car in, back in my hometown, like by Walmart, and I just want you to, if you go there at night, please just, like, don't go there late at night, don't go there during, like, just don't go there alone, because this happened to me. It wasn't even like nighttime, it was like midday, like, it's not safe. There's this guy that's on the loose. He chased me and my mom through a store, like, and, stalked me, and the cops aren't doing anything about it. It's just not safe to be there by yourself, ever. And that was it. And then her new boyfriend, actually, who I think before she ever started dating him, and after she, like, while she was still talking to me, this guy was so-called creepy, never left her alone, was always up her butt, etc., etc., etc. The guy that she ended up getting with months and months and months after we finally stopped talking sends me this long, rude-ass message, like, we need to talk man to man, because at the time I was transgendered, female to male transgender. And so he's like, we need to talk man to man. You're lying about all this BS going into the military. You're probably just looking for a way to get back into her life. I know who you are, blah, blah, blah. So I wrote this song about them just because it pissed me off so much. The dude blocked me straight after. So, going through, like, why your boyfriend's hair looking longer than yours, but he'd walk around the house in your stanky-ass drawers, don't talk about me, I got ladies on the floor making music every day, bitches begging for more. Before I met you, I was impossibly positive. I never thought about half the things we did. My life is better now that I ain't stay with you anymore. Since I've left you like I found you, you're just trash on the shore. I never wanted to talk about any of this shit, but you forced my fucking hand and now we in it. I spit it, let's get it, I'm with it. You gotta be shitting, Drea. Nah, bitches, is a one time that I ain't kidding. He said that we should talk it over man to man, over text, then he blocked all the messages. Ha! Looks like your ex-girlfriend is manlier than him, talking like I got some kind of fucking master plan. Hot damn as if I want up in your pants again. I remember the time you tore my ligament. And as for my future, you got zero involvement. By the way, bitch, Merry Christmas. Because that's around when all this crap happened. it was October when I was assaulted, and not long after that, it was like 2 weeks later in November. Actually, not 2 weeks later in November. It was a month later in November when my brother finally got me out of the situation that I was in. And then in right before, I think, Christmas or something like that. Let me check my messages. That's not important. Okay. So, where I just get this rude ass message back, and I'm like, I don't want back into her fucking life. I just don't want her to get assaulted. And maybe some people aren't capable of understanding that. Maybe I worded some things incorrectly. But, like, I couldn't let the shit go like that. It just pissed me off. I started coming into my own just a little bit more as a musician. A little bit before what happened, I think, in 2018, I wrote Open Your Heart to Me for one of my friends had damn near killed themselves and ended up going to the hospital, also related to, like, trans issues. So basically the entire song, I was really inspired by some of, like, the choral writing of Eric Whitacre, where you have all these, like, suspended 2s, 4s, and funky inversions and all that. Just lots and lots of dissonance, so you can kind of hear that in the background synthesizers. I wish I had the project files to this so I could bring that out a little bit more, because back then in 2018, it was really hard for me to mix consistently, because, like, I just have this huge reverb, which I never really seemed to learn how to get rid of, and then this really crunchy, overly compressed final product where you'd have your guitars just both super tinny from being overly compressed, and then smashed down on top of like those background chords that you can barely hear when I get to. You don't have to say. You can listen to the back there and hear, like, that, like, ooh, almost. And that's the chords I was writing on top of. And then just taking, like, just a really dissonant freaking of was probably inspired by, I listened to the Halo 2 soundtrack where you have, like, Breaking the Covenant and other songs like that. listening to a lot of Misha Mansour when I was writing guitar parts. That's where you get that kind of just, it almost feels like there's barely a time signature here at points, because it's just kind of, where are we sitting? So fixing that, I was going through a lot of things with my language class. I was getting ready for my upcoming final test, having some issues with my girlfriend at the time, and just kind of, I was really in my feelings. I didn't really see a way to get back into it, well, to actually get at those emotions without getting back into my music. You can hear kind of the style between Open Your Heart to Me and Progressing Degrees of Insanity. I have like a grind machine for my amps. I think it's like a combination of, do I have Dominator amp anymore? I think that might be the name of the amp. I have a lot of my stuff just kind of set as a preset to fire and forget whenever I want to write now. So I've kind of lost a little bit of my touch in between then and now. Like then I used to kind of be conscious of what I was doing when it came to writing my guitars. Now it's just like, if it sounds good, it sounds good. If it sounds like shit, we find something else that works. I got like, I think it's either tablas or darabucas. I have, and those are all like contact instruments. I've found just a bunch of world drum synths, either for free or, yeah, there's several free packs. I maybe have, I don't think I have Mini Null on here. That's actually like a bike bell that I use, and you hear that kind of Eric Whitacre inspired choral sound, which is, I've taken an auto filter on that to get that almost a tremolo effect. There you're hearing that I have an Egyptian darabuka, and then God, I don't even, I think there is a mini null somewhere in here. I just don't remember where I put it. Manually cutting some thunder sample. Actually, all those choirs that I have going in the background, that's manually cut samples that I just laid on the track rather than using a sampler for. So I have a whole folder of nothing but just choir oohs and ahs that I've just chopped. I don't even have them labeled by what notes they are, because I can just pitch shift those around depending on how I like the sound. And I'm not so adept at music theory anymore that I'm capable of labeling that way. This is something that I made like maybe like 6 months ago. But anyway, so I made this song while I was having an argument with my girlfriend at the time. Probably really the only parts that I'm really particularly proud of, even though it's one of my more atmospheric pieces. You can hear that subway sample, which is part of a factory pack of Mixcraft 9, I think. I didn't even really listen to what it said, but I took... One of the signature things I do is I just slap a freaking ping pong, like, delay on everything. Pretty much every freaking thing that I want to have any kind of space to it. Rather than apply rather than apply reverb these days, delay. Every time. Like a tape delay, sometimes a digital delay, but I like tape and analog. And the delay that I use the most is I think it's like the Acoustica Classic delay. It may be named something else. I don't even really look at it anymore. Probably the part that I'm most proud of with the song would be like lead writing on the final chorus. A lot of the percussion instruments that you can hear are either, I think I have, because I think it's earthquake sampling or something like that. But there's like Tin Can for Contact that's a free sample pack that I use. The same place I found Mini Null and I think Piano Boom, which I may have used here. I don't really quite remember because I didn't take great notes. Yeah. The leads toward the end over here were, I think, Real Rick. What else? I used Real 8 for the guitars. I switched over from Shreddage to Real 8, but I kind of tend to use them both equally now. Siege Drum is a good cinematic kind of... I started adding like cinematic drums to my library not too long ago. I have a crap ton of Contact instruments, so Contact is probably really what opened up a lot of options for me. I have libraries. These Kinetic Treats right here, this is a free library, paid library, paid library. This is a free library. These are both paid. All of my folders are completely unorganized. Yeah, Black Octopus is the Indian percussion one that I was talking about for those, like, tablas, stuff like that. I don't know why it's not in my drum box, but it is what it is. Piano Boom. So it's like for a lot of kind of plosive sounds. Let's see what I have here. Victoria Music Box. Yeah, Victoria Music Box is one that I use all the time. You like hear that like dong. So 99 Sounds Drum Machine. That's one that I use pretty. Cling film frame drums is great for like timpanis and stuff like that, and also frame drums. Crash VSTI, I definitely use that one a lot. Symbolistic, I use that one a lot. Haven't used Deepinga Timbal in a while, but Metal Skewer and Kabasa, Table Drum, Tin Can, those are all instruments that I use all the time. Pots is pretty decent. But mostly for my cinematic drums, I use Siege Drum and a combination of, now I have, what is it? Cinematic percussion as well. If I can just, where did it go? So it has like toms, gongs, earthquake hits, stuff like that, metal hits, percussion hits. So those are all really usable. See here, no screwing around with fiddling too much for velocity. I'm just gonna, no, I literally didn't do anything. Why would I want to save my changes? Got back into trap again with Listerine just because I felt like I'd hit a wall with metal. Someone add me as a friend on Snap. I have no idea who they are. This instrumental here I wrote as just a product of writer's block. I bought a sample pack from Cymatics, decided to just kind of yank a sample out of there because I was completely, like, I finished my language, everything else. I'd done some like other covers and stuff that I might show you in a minute, but I was just totally, none of my projects seemed to be going anywhere. So I had these lyrics laying around after I finished it, and it sounds not necessarily great, but it sounds like this.
When I think this beat beyond the curtain, I've been way too damn quiet. So that's something that I aim to rectify. Listerine, are you listening? Swish, swish, put your brains in the sink. They come between your ears and they tell you what to think. You're shaking all around and you gaze so you blink. Listerine, your mouth is burning. Swish, swish, better think before you speak. They all up in your face and they making you be pleased. They police on what you say, or you better keep it sweet. These girls live house somewhere around Palm Springs. I like politicians even less than when my mom sings. These days people be steadily trying the bomb things, and Democrats be pulling on all your heartstrings. Listen, let me tell you all about the hard rock things. Real shit opposite probably is Ariana Grande's dope ass rings. Those are just the here that are just keep on walking. Why you walk when you don't let shock anybody asking questions is? Well, I'm an outgoing fan base and full of ignorance, because surely Twitter activists and other communities that they represent. Thing is, it makes it unwatched reads are the ones that you can't trust. That's over disagree. Throw that ass to the dogs under the foot. Uncle Tom, they call people who love their nation crazy racist, the one who puts out true information. Black cats vote Democrat, that's fine insinuation. Come on, that Kanye West, fuck that TV education. Listerine, are you listening? Swish, swish, bitch, put your brains in the sink. They are between your ears and they tell you what to think. You're shaking all around and you gaze so you blink.
So I kind of hesitated to do any kind of political rap, but I had this, these lyrics actually I had written like 2 years ago or something like that, and I just kind of, I wrote them as more of a free verse, but it was, every time I try to write free verse, I end up rhyming and kind of staying within a meter anyway. So I chopped off about probably 75% of the actual lyric material, and then rewrote some different lines to make them fit a little bit better, and they actually fit pretty well over this structure that I had made with Listerine, which I think I've been watching tutorials or something like that just to kind of get me back into the game. And this is what I got. So actually, I showed it to my mom, and she was so offended that I said I like politicians even less than when my mom sings, because my mom cannot fucking sing. You can kind of see here developing this style of just like staying weird, kind of trying to stay different for the sake of being different, which sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think it was like a news post on the last flash sale that I was able to take advantage of, which was by Waves. So I got a crap ton of new plugins. I think they're no longer actually doing this promotion. It's a different promotion now. But they were doing buy $90 or more of their software, I think, and you get 3 free plugins or something like that. I don't remember. Like some 73 plugins, which allowed me to just kind of crap out Listerine and get it over with. Because the main thing I've been fighting with for years has always been just being consistent. That's why, like, I moved to mastering my stuff usually with emastered. Like, I'll get a decent demo with leave like 6 dB of headroom and get it as mixed as well as I possibly can, and then just send it to an AI to master it for me. That's what I did with let's see. It's what I did with Танцую с незнакомцем, which is dancing with a stranger in Russian, based on a Russian cover of the Sam Smith song. You can hear it here. I didn't post it to Newgrounds because obvious copyright issues.
Не хочу сегодня быть одна. Тебя ни раз не убила я еще. Тебя я помню очень хорошо. И не хочу сегодня быть одна, быть одна, быть одна. Ты зажжешь огонь. Мне нужен кто-то, кто возьмет контроль. Я знаю точно, что я сделаю. Ведь не хочу сегодня быть одна, быть одна, быть одна.
So you can hear there, like, real 8 guitars. I think I might have used Zebra for the lead. I can't really remember. But here I kind of had a little bit of an American accent when I was singing, but this was when I was like maybe three quarters of the way through my language course, and basically about to go overseas and come back speaking a little bit better. People that I did show when I was overseas who spoke Russian natively were like, wow, you don't even really have that much of an accent. This is you? And I'm like, yeah, this is me. So, like, I still had the same mic I have now, Blue Snowball. It's not that I was substantially better at my software or anything. I hadn't touched it in over a year. But just trying to kind of apply those same concepts of weirdness. But, like, also get the workflow down to a manageable level and make the songs structured such that you don't have a bunch of crazy freaking melodies running over top of each other at every single part of the track, because then you just don't really have anything. you just have a wall of noise. That's been the biggest hurdle, and the main thing I've been trying to cut down on. After I got back,
Хочу, чтоб ты знала, сейчас пора снова быть друг с другом. Хочу, чтоб ты знала, что я твоя, мы с тобой деловерняк. Чувство мое, скользкая дорожка, посмотри, до чего я добила тебя. Все еще я в бой вернулась, я без тебя чувствую себя низко. Милая, у нас гроза, ведь скоро появится радуга. Смотри мне в глаза, скажи, любовь еще жива. Хочу, чтоб ты знала, сейчас пора снова быть друг с другом. Хочу, чтоб ты знала, что я твоя, мы с тобой верня. Хочу, чтоб ты знала, сейчас пора друг с другом вернять. Хочу, чтоб ты знала, ведь я твоя, мы с тобой верня. Хочу, чтоб ты знала, я за тебя, мы с тобой деловерня.
so this is a Russian cover that I wrote myself, lyrics and all, of Selena Gomez, I Want You to Know. And I tried to take some kind of new approaches, applying new ways to use the same instruments that I had. Like, I think, where's this solo that I have here? Like, that's not actually a guitar lead that you're hearing. I took two different leads that I liked the sound of, and I ran them through my guitar amps. I'm just thinking about using instruments differently, using them in the space differently, trying to keep frequencies as clean as I possibly could, and let's see, then I went to... So, like, Little Dreams was a song that I was a huge fan of when I was coming up through high school. And I started taking the approach of, you know, I'll be honest, I don't have any super huge original ideas, when it comes to making my own personal music right now, why don't I just kind of take the same approach that I took to doing these two covers, keep making music, kind of don't really have it in me to pull out of my ass any super new, super daring ideas. So far, it really worked. Next thing I wanted to do was see if I could take Perfume Dream Fighter, see if I could make my own Russian cover, and that sounds like this. Like, I tried to translate as lyrically and literally as possible. And that was probably one of the challenges making the piece. It was less about like the metal, because I've figured that out pretty well. Ideas are going to just come. Like, they're going to come naturally to you. They're going to inspire you. It's like almost everything I do is humming, singing, beatboxing, something like that to kind of get my ideas through. But I'm not going to be able to get those through if I don't have the necessary equipment to do that with. For one thing, like, what's helped me develop the most is singing. Singing literally everything, recording literally everything I sing. For two, paying attention to, like, artists that inspire me. Three, listening to, basically, coming on Newgrounds or just listening to what you guys have to say, really, honestly. And I can't thank you enough for sticking with me as long as you have. And four, just not letting yourself quit, because coming into your own as a music producer is going to happen as you go through it. It's not going to happen by intentionally focusing on any aspect of your producing. How did I develop my style other than just listening and just continuing to hit the wall until either it broke or I broke? And I honestly feel like Newgrounds is probably the best place to do that. You might post your videos to YouTube and stuff like that. People might fund you on other sites, but this is probably the best site for critique, period, and to develop. So that's definitely why I would choose Newgrounds above any other site here. And now that I'm through basically my entire musical catalog, I think I'm gonna try to close off here because I've spent an entire 2.5 hours on 2 questions. Satan Brain says, which mod is the best? You know, it's a really tough one, because I always see, like, Lex Rodent is constantly doing a ton of work. I don't really see a lot of, like, what goes on in any other portals, so it's not really my place to say anything. We have, let's see. Yeah, it's between, for me, Nekomika and Lex Rodent, and I'd probably, just because of my constant exposure to what Lex Rodent is doing, Lex Rodent is probably my favorite. Sorry, all you guys. And if you say you don't pick favorites, like, if that's just a natural human thing to do. So, like, I realize I may or may not be someone's favorite. Ask your anything. Oh, I already answered that one. I mean, if you want to ask my computer why I keep destroying it with loads of virtual instruments. YomuChan, did you ever lose a finger whilst idly twirling the blam hammer? No. I came around 06 when it was kind of hard to get those, so I have 1,084 blams versus 4719 saves. And for those curious how that works, like, your blams and saves only count toward your vote power in the movie and game portals, respectively. No, but I hope you enjoyed reading the small notes and blurbs in the targeting data. Someone will have to explain this to me. The Ghost of 7C says, how can we be more awesome like you? And I'm like, I'm not awesome, I'm just here. 7C's sent me a picture of a fucking squirrel. Oh, I did say ask my anything in the tagline. I get it. I tried so hard. These are the squirrel and strawberries that... you changed your username again, you asshole! So, yo, I only came here for one thing. Your girl 7 needed a diamond ring, I think. The way she got me tripping with her art skills. I'm gonna show you what she sent me. I'm talking pixels. I got me some strawberries. She drew me a squirrel. Now I'm tripping for syllables. Out of this world. Headmister 7, I appreciate you. Got my feelings to 11. Post so overdue. The ghost of seven seas is cooler than me. That is the takeaway from this. Dark Archon, one question. Hi. Don't you wish you were? Zero D Cool. Bro, there are people on Newgrounds who are younger than your account. You know, when I joined Newgrounds, I was 11, so I don't want to think about that. Miss says, what's the biggest dick you ever sucked? 9 inches. Ogo Suno, thank you for your service. What's your goal in life? What is your dream you are willing to achieve? You know, I'm kind of in a place right now where I would like to have just a decent job that I can look myself in the mirror every day and kind of go to, and I think I have that. I don't know, because some of the things that I'd like to study are like anthropology in particular, I have more short-term goals than not, so like I'll have my little bucket list, and I just kind of want to check that off. Like, one of my things would be to kind of, I would say, investigate some more linguistic links between Russian language, or at least like the geographical location of Siberia, to Navajo language, because I have a friend who speaks Navajo, and we were talking about, I think, like, I said the word chistich, and she said in Navajo, like, the phrase, like, washing your hands too much or something like that, or like having washed your hands to the point that they were like hurting or something. Like, I don't remember how she said it, but that led us into a discussion of like, when she said it, I heard the word chistich out of it, which is to clean your hands. Like, so like you can say to clean teeth, like чистить зубы, и чистить руки, but you would say more like wash as opposed to like вы моете руки or something like that. You are washing hands. Вы чистите руки, you are cleaning hands. And that got us talking, like, for instance, the color черный, which is black in Russian, is, I think, жирный in Navajo. And Navajo's tonal, so I'm absolutely freaking terrible at speaking, but I can sometimes understand what she says. And then it came to, there was this goddess named Umai, and I'm going to look up. So Umai, also known as Humai, Urmai, and sometimes Umaya, is an ancient female god of Turkic and Mongol peoples, occupying the second place after Tengri, and among modern peoples, it's known, I think, to Altai peoples, Bashkirs, Buryat Kazakhs, I forgot what Kyrgyzia is. It's something pretty simple, but the Mongols, Tatars, and Khakasov, I don't know what those are. So the most ancient, I don't know if that's memorials or something like that, of the goddess are known in ancient Turkish letters. So she described this goddess to her. Let's see. So basically, she protected children and newborns, and before birth, protecting the birthing mother and the young child. She was, there would be like this totem of Umay, which they would put on the left corner of the yurt, which is just a yurt in English, to kind of like keep diseases at bay. They'd literally take this totem, they'd wrap the umbilical cord around the totem, hang it on the left corner of the tent, and that would protect the mother and child from little diseases, demons, and all sorts of other stuff like that. So let's see, they were hung there like with other various little dolls, which were I think this says knitted from the sinews of the mother, supposed to like feed the spirits or something if the child was ill. Let's see. Like a special protection was over the children of like they were like cradle age kids, and she'd protect the child until 6 years, until he was like walking around, hanging like the little wooden bow with the arrow over the cradle and hanging the doll on the corner of the yurt. I was talking to my friend, she's like, wait, we have a goddess by the same name and we do the same ritual for the same reason. I'm like, didn't like the Athabascan people always talk about coming up from around like up north around Alaska, and I'm like, huh, land bridge. And I'm like, wait, land bridge, Siberia. Yeah, here's like Alaska, USA, Yukon River, Bering Sea, and then Russia over here, and Siberia. So her people would have come from here, come all the way over to there, and then all the way down. So you got your possible migration route graphs here, which I don't necessarily trust, but I would just be like, wherever the rivers go, that's probably where the people are going. Oh, what do these means? Probably most of my goals do have to do with like studying, just continuing to produce music, have the usual American dream of like wife, house, kids, or husband, house, kids, however that goes. I want to be able to probably homeschool my kids if I have any. And that's about it. Anything else that happens just kind of happens. If I happen to get a career, obviously I want to advance like a serious career. I want to advance in that career to the fullest that I am able to. If it happens that I get signed to a record label, I want to pursue that as hard as I possibly can. But for now, I'm just going to keep making music, keep doing what I have to do, see out my Army contract. Thinking of maybe working as a translator more now that I have a language under my belt. Claude Sin, what are your views on folks that shit on NG? I tend not to really think about it too much. I actually don't even know if I've seen any serious people who seriously have any decent reason to shit on Newgrounds. The most people that I see that do shit on Newgrounds are like somebody on freaking YouTube or something else like that who plays Geometry Dash and is just mad that we deleted their audio or whatever, and in that case I just kind of think they're dumb. Has Newgrounds got better or worse from Omega Prism? You know, in one respect, like I'm an audio portal moderator and I'm huge into the audio portal, have over 100 songs, and I would say Newgrounds has gotten better and technology-wise, like especially the since we've gotten WebGL, the quality of games on the site has just kind of skyrocketed through the roof. The community, I would say, has gotten probably a little bit more toxic, particularly the politics forum, which has always been like a shit show. But it's gotten to the point where there will be times where like you're just not going to get a decent discussion over there. You're going to get the same old party line from the same old one or two users who like to gangbang everybody else who has brain enough in their head to have their own opinions, and then there's that. I'm not going to talk too much about that. Those, if you're watching this and this pisses you off, you know who you are, and I think you're kind of a piece of shit, but if you don't know who I'm talking about, I'm absolutely not talking about you. The general forum, always been a shit show. Clubs and crews is kind of dying a little bit. I feel like we're getting a lot less engagement than we used to. Particularly because just people's constantly spamming. There's not a lot of spam in the forums anymore, but there's a ton in the game and movie portal and in the audio portal. So I'd say in that respect, things have gotten worse. People are uploading a lot of stolen audio just for Geometry Dash, drive-by style, and not really knowing what they're doing. But on the other hand, I think it's really amazing what Tom has done with the supporter system. Because, like, it's kind of extra cool points at this point. But just knowing that people are willing to, like, to take a little piece, a chunk of their income and prop up the site, like, that warms my heart, you know? And I honestly think this is the most welcoming community on the entire web and probably the best place to collaborate. Because you go to SoundCloud, nobody engages with you. You go to YouTube, nobody engages with you unless you're, like, big and popular. And even then, it's just, like, cool. It's useless comments. It's throwaway comments. Like, SoundCloud, you're not going to get mixing critique. You're not going to get somebody helping you. And I really feel like, in those respects, Newgrounds has only gotten better over the years. Like, maybe I get less reviews than I did, but, like, my fans are my real fans. People that want to help you really want to help you. Like I've had people, like, I've gotten my first commissions here, which I never would have gotten anywhere else. I've gotten my first collaborations here, which I never would have gotten anywhere else. And just the fields for that, there's so many different options that we have, like with our tagging and everything else, that make Newgrounds a better place to get discovered, I think, than anywhere else, even despite, like, the smaller audience size. So maybe we could do better with social media engagement, but I think that Newgrounds has gotten better over the years, because we went from being like Club a Seal to being a user-generated content site, and it's constantly being improved upon, and we're constantly doing, like, cool events. Your anything, why should I care about your anything? Where is my anything? Yeah, ask your anything. Oh, more question. Yes, no? No, yes? Yes, no, yes. Yes, yes, no. Gamatin. Is that, like... Is this your Scantron sheet for BBA? How much has Newgrounds evolved as a community since you've joined? Emo Sire. I think I just answered that a second ago. You know, I see a lot of people here more connecting off-site as well as on-site. I don't get as many PMs as I used to back in the day. People are, like, just going straight to, like, Discord. That's probably actually something that I don't particularly like all that much, even though, I wish we had, like, a threaded chat function or something like that, in addition to, well, not a threaded chat, just a normal chat function. Sometimes there's stuff that I want to PM, sometimes I just want to sidebar chat like Skype. Pancake, too fat. I don't know what your username means. Oh. So X in the center, your move. Oh, you got me in an impasse here. I think I would go top right corner. Pokemon POE Guide GCN. Sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Why haven't you gotten level 60? Look at NG stats. No. It's got to be somewhere. Stat management. Let's see. User info. I think my deposit rate is like 2% or something like that. Maybe even worse. Join days active experience. Yeah, experience per day. 1.29. That's, I have like a 12% deposit rate. Because, like, I think you get a max of 10 experience per day, and I'm only getting 1.29 per day. Yeah, I literally, Denton has the same question. Yeah, I literally just didn't really have the time for it. It was too fucking lazy. Ghost Gamer says, hi, how are you? Normally people would ask me, hi, how are you? And I'd say really short, never changes. Kruno5 says, do you have a boyfriend or girlfriend? Yes, I have a girlfriend. Nekomika says, how fun has Newgrounds been for you? Have you met users here you would consider to be good friends? Absolutely. I would honestly, I would consider like you, Quarrel, Technique, lots of other users, Seth, close friends of mine, even though we don't necessarily talk that often, like Real Faction, Tranix. There's no shortage of good people here and people who will be there for you when you need them. Obviously you have some users who are kind of just here for the stats, here for kind of like here for the host type thing. MK Mafo says, what's the most epic argument or drama you've seen going down on Newgrounds? Have you not seen the politics forum? Butsbo, is there anything from your first years on Newgrounds that you'd like to see coming back? Maybe a site feature or event, or maybe a specific Newgrounds series? You know, I really miss the different, like the Pico and Nene and Darnell voting buttons. I don't think that they were always a thing, but that's probably one of the things I miss the most and kind of makes me nostalgic. I also miss Newgrounds chat. I think that might, like at one point I realized I was today years old when you could use all these different header buttons to get around instead of scrolling down to the bottom. Yeah, so Newgrounds chat is still a thing. That'd probably be about it. Oh, so there used to also be on the front page of the audio portal this A-bot player that had, I think it was 3 or 4 different loops, some of them by Paragon X9, I think, or maybe even most of them. And like that was probably my favorite thing. I would just leave it on all freaking day. What's been the best year on Newgrounds? Shade 29. It's a tough one for me, considering like there's been points in time where I've just completely freaking gone, but for me, it was 2006, probably the most nostalgic, most fun year that I had on Newgrounds. It was like the first big clock day that I had. I was around Newgrounds before that, kind of just lurking, but 2006 sticks out in my mind probably the most. But granted, that was when I was in like the Newgrounds police department, in the Elite Guard barracks, stuff like that. The Heart Grinder, why does God continue to let the children suffer? That gets in kind of like a moral argument. I don't know whether it would be moral or not for God to stop the children from suffering, i.e. like stop rapists and pedophiles from existing and control the free will of all super mean stepmoms and school teachers to keep them from hurting the children, or like eradicate all disease from the face of the planet. Because at that point, you're not only are you controlling people's free will, turning them into robots who can only love and be happy, you're kind of like taking all the evil out of the world and robbing any chance for it to be anything other than meaninglessly good, which you would still probably be depressed in that state. At least, you take it in the chance of like in the case of like celebrities who, provided they don't have a super stressful life, or just, let's just say someone who's like filthy fucking rich and doesn't even really have to watch their money, and that's in no perfect world, because obviously if you're rich, you have to fucking watch your money. But, like, mo money, mo problems type thing. It'd be like more goodness, more apathy type thing. Havry Low the Pigeon. How do you see Newgrounds compared to similar sites like YouTube, DeviantArt, etc.? I think I already kind of got into that, where like YouTube and DeviantArt and SoundCloud and all that are really fun, and you can probably like monetize and sell your stuff or similar stuff like that, but they don't have the same community aspect and the cult aspects that Newgrounds does. Speaking of, I really think that maybe I wish a lot of the cultiness of Newgrounds came back, because we used to be edgy as shit and not just edgy in the general forum. Like I even view Newgrounds as more fun than Reddit, just because Reddit is just a bunch of people posting shit and like memeing. It's not like a user created content community. And of course, people will then point to like 9gag, and I'm like, 9gag just steals memes. What are you talking about? It's still funny, but 9gag steals memes. Instagram is just for like you post your picture, somebody double taps on it and just leaves. There's really no meaningful way to have discourse on those sites, and I think that's probably like you might have discourse on Reddit, but you're not going to create something like create art and then have massive discourse and kind of explode there. Like you're just I don't feel like you're going to get the meaningful feedback because it doesn't have that, oh, you're just starting out, here, let me help you type vibe going on, or here, let me collaborate with you. And you may get that on SoundCloud, but then you're not going to get that meaningful critique. And Newgrounds has kind of like the best of pretty much the best of both worlds in that option. Not option, I just read option and said it anyway. Crash Gen says, let's ask the real questions here. Do you sleep with your clothes on or in your pajamas? It really depends on whether I'm expecting a bed check at night and whether I'm expecting boss man to come knock on my door. So I'm almost always wearing pants and a shirt of some kind. Yeah. I used to sleep in like my workout uniform because there would just be constantly the chance of like an NCO knocking on your door and be like, cadre, and then you're like, huh? And they're like, why are you not fucking dressed? I used to sleep naked, but I stopped that after my dad died and my uncle came down the stairs with my phone, and I literally just had nothing but a blanket to cover up, answer the phone, and be like, oh yeah, that's my dad. So, yeah. Coral says, I second Crash Gen's question. I don't know why, but there's something classic about it. Personally, I have an entire pajama drawer dedicated to a variety of options, sleepwear for every occasion and mood. Coral also says, I'm sure I've noticed your age before, but you seem ripe and young to me. Where do you see yourself heading in 5 years? Will you still occasionally upload content to Newgrounds? I definitely plan on it, but in 5 years I should be finished with my contract, and I don't know if I will re-up or not, or if I'm just going to like go back and stay in Mississippi. Let's see. Yeah, I definitely do plan to continue to upload content to Newgrounds as long as I'm not signed or whatever, because labels sometimes they take issue when you upload stuff that's licensed and then like, here, listen to it for free. So there's that, but I don't really anticipate being signed to a label anytime soon. Although I did have a couple years ago, a house label from Chicago called me. I never really got up with them because I was busy with school. Music, favorite artists and bands, I like a good list. So here's a pro tip. Asking me what questions is probably the worst idea, just because when you ask me what, my brain for some reason decides to keep listening and like, okay, are you going to narrow that down any for me? Like, are you going to say favorite rap artists? Or are you going to say favorite rap artists who happen to have long hair, or some BS list of adjectives to kind of help me narrow down? But my tastes are pretty eclectic. I would say I definitely love Nightwish, as I mentioned earlier. Within Temptation, Epica, now Tarja Turunen, the ex-lead vocalist of Nightwish, works kind of by herself. But rap-wise, I listen to a mixture of like the usual like Ludacris, Kanye West. I fucking love Kanye. I just think he's got a brilliant mind, and I love how outspoken he is. He's just like, there's not a lot of people doing what Kanye does. Let's see. Krayshawn and V Nasty and Lil Debbie, because that's what got me through college, is just little scrawny white girl rappers doing their thing. I used to be a fan of Eminem when I was in like I would say like middle school or something like that. There are several other rappers that I'm aware of, like Lil Bear, maybe ASAP Rocky if I remember that correctly. I haven't listened to him in a long time, but I remember like I really did like his music. I used to listen to some Rick Ross. I was a fan of DJ Khaled's DJing. I listened to a lot of Ariana Grande, Cardi B, Nicki Minaj, Ashley Everyday. God, who else? It's going to be really hard for me to kind of pull these up, but I also listened to a lot of kind of lesser known people like Andrew Huang, Adam Neely. Dave from Boy in a Band is a pretty popular one. There's, let me get that silent burp on real quick. Steve Terryberry, which I probably one of the thing that's, God, I can see this guy's face, but I can't think of his name. There's Jared Dines, and then there's that other, yeah, Rob Scallone. That was the name I was trying to think. Which one of them got scammed with the Jillian string guitar? And I was like, I'm pretty sure it's Jared Dines, but I was thinking of Rob Scallone's face. So, like, I listened to them too. Listen to Dragon Force. Jesus Christ. Marina and the Diamonds is another big favorite for me. If I were to... oh, so I have Tattoo, which is... I've been listening to Tattoo since I was like 5. They were actually the reason that I wanted to study Russian language in the first place. We're going to try Google. Stevie T, Yoko, oh no. They're just Bing being freaking slow. So...
Jonathan.
Yeah, I think you turned this into...
You won't believe what she uses as an instrument. So smacking your balls off a cardboard box is supposed to be considered music? How do you dance to this? It's just incredible. She's rubbing a balloon and calling it music.
I don't have a huge list of like favorite artists. I kind of just listen and look at whatever. But that's kind of in the direction of what I'm looking for. Let's see. In terms of writing, I would definitely say I really like Ben Levin's work and some of the work of Signals Music Studios on YouTube. Let's see. But I think that's about it. And Squeaky Toad says, every occasion and mood. Like you have dedicated sleepwear for when you're angry and for Ramadan. And Coral said, for Ramadan, I put on my pajama don. That's hijab onesie. The T-Head HX, I don't know how to pronounce that, says, how many cringy movies have you deleted? I actually haven't deleted any movies since I'm not a game and movie moderator. I am an audio moderator. But if you change that to audio, it's a freaking lot, because even when I used to just flag audio, it'd just be by the thousands. There are moderators who do a lot more work than I do, who have unpublished more recently, but back in, say, when I first started modding, I think it was back in 17, it was just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds per day. What is your favorite food to go with vodka, says Mook, or Mookie. Wait, potato. Always potato, kartoffel. But pretend I never said that. J Vega 07707 says, do you do special containment procedures? Yeah, no. What is the worst thing you have ever seen? Yorkie Bork. I think I already covered this one. Probably the worst thing I'd ever seen when I was a kid was just people jumping out of windows when the Twin Towers were coming down. I was only 6 years old, but I was able to understand that people were dying and falling was scary, and they would rather fall than be burned alive. I don't want to spend too much time talking about that because we're already at like a 3.5 hour, 4 hour video. Squeaky Toe says, so where are all the answers you owe the public? I'm making them right now. Bomb Tunes, what you got going here? Russian Boxer, yeah.
She was just a girl struggling with a video game.
You need to train.
Oh, is this not part of the... Okay. Oh wow, this is a really good picture. So this is really the only game that I particularly remember. Maybe I more so did like Audio Portal, but yeah, I have played some of your games. What's your favorite Newgrounds movie? It might be... Let's see, which one of these? Yeah, so I was a huge weeb back in the day, and I was really into Naruto. Who deserves more love? Russian accent. Who deserves more love, Tom or Wade Fulp? Obviously, I don't think Wade Fulp administrates the site anymore. He used to. I'm gonna have to say Tom. Sorry, Wade. Run before you get corrupted. Bryn O. A little bit too late for that. Who's the sexiest Newgrounds member alive? I think, yeah, sorry, Washed You, if you're a guy. You were like my girl crush back when I was illegal. I always liked Sekhem's icon, if Sekhem is still around. Correct. My heart. Psychopath says, I've got the anthrax you asked for. Where do I mail it? I would give you my personal address. Not gonna put my PII out there. Wheezy says, do you know how many years I've been on Newgrounds? I'm gonna guess... just more than me. I'm gonna guess more than me. 2 more than me. Are those potatoes? Oh, it's Alf. What's your favorite meat and fuck? You know, I actually wasn't a big fan of those games. I would tend to do more of the RPGs. Also, if I say my favorite one, it will out me as how fucking old I am going through my reviews to find it. I think now Newgrounds has actually made it where you can't see adult content if you're not logged in, which I think was a pretty good move, even though it is annoying if I just log into my Newgrounds later. What's your favorite Newgrounds April Fool's joke? I think there was the one where, like, oh my god, everything was just tanks. Oh yeah, that was a good one, where the, Kevin Bacon Day. Oh yeah, I remember China Grounds. Oh yeah, I remember the poo tank. The... oh yeah, I did not like the redesign one. I don't think I was... yeah, I wasn't there for Newgrounds. I wasn't a user for Newgrounds. I think this one needs to be redone. Replace the real edit button with the fake edit button. The great one says, Andrea364, why the username changed to what you have now. So when I first signed up to Newgrounds, I signed up with my, like I tried to sign up with just Andrea, but that was not a thing. So then I typed in 364 after my username, and I went with that for a while. Then there was Andrea364 Day, which is a day literally making fun of me, and I'm like, oh, so that's what they're going to find when they search my username. So I changed it to EDM364 because I was doing electronic dance music at the time. Then I got bored of that username because I thought it was like hella generic, and I changed it to ADR3-N, which is just Adrian. Because I was already going by like Drea in my personal life, and then changed it to Adrian, and I just haven't really wanted to change it since Adrian was like my trans name. And now I just have my normal name. Does that wrap it up for our questions? Yeah, that wraps it up for our questions. So I just wanted to thank all you guys for being a part of my 14 years. Sorry for being about half a week late. I went on a Labor Day celebration actually, and I'm just coming back now to make this video. All right, see you guys around, and it's good talking to all of you. Thanks for coming out, and have a good week.